What's up, Basketball Brain fans and members? How's it going? So, when I was younger, I read a Dr. Phil book. Yes, Dr. Phil. I remember reading it. I was in my early 20s and thinking, this guy kind of has his stuff together. He's not what I thought he was. He's intelligent. He seems like a good therapist. Well, anyways, I kind of forgot about Dr. Phil. I've seen him on the internet a few times, his funny stuff. And no one really took him seriously, but I always had that initial impression that he wasn't a moron. And then I saw him today pop up in my YouTube feed on the Joe Rogan podcast. And as my first impressions came back to me, I realized they were accurate. Dr. Phil's not a moron. He has a really good grasp on a lot of different issues regarding mental health and so forth. At any rate, I'm getting ready to release the Killer Instinct program March 1st. You guys should go get that. Link is below. And he talked about Tony Romo. Now, Tony Romo never won a Super Bowl, but he came from a very small university, Eastern Illinois. And Dr. Phil said, how did you make it to the NFL? How did you become a quarterback for 14 years for the Dallas Cowboys and win a lot of games and break a lot of records? And Dr. Phil says, look, Tony Romo wasn't a swaggering guy. He didn't walk around showing it. It's what we call the quiet killer. But he said if he lost, he took it personally. He felt like it was unfair. He had a killer instinct. Let's listen to Dr. Phil explain what Tony Romo told him about this killer instinct and how he was so obsessive and suffered from that thing we always talk about with killers, the inferiority complex.
If he didn't win, he couldn't live with it. It's like if somebody thought, like he played the game, somebody beat him, that just the idea that that person went home thinking that they were better than him, that they could beat him, that he just couldn't eat, sleep, think until he got back and owned it again and got back to it. He said it's this drive to win. And so he would, he said he would be out at 1 o'clock in the morning in the dome throwing a pass that route got intercepted. He got jumped on that route. And he'd be trying to figure out why on Thursday in practice he saw what he needed to see. Why didn't he see it on Sunday? And he would analyze and analyze and analyze until he could get there, until he could do it, until he could win it. He just had this drive to win.
That super unhealthy obsession, they all share that. Michael Jordan had that. I mean, we've talked about that several times on the podcast. So many people that are extreme winners, they're psychotic in their obsession with winning.
Yeah,
that's all they want to do, and if they lose, they it's almost insufferable. They almost can't deal with it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but the difference between winners and losers is winners do things losers do not want to do.
Yeah,
they will get up in the middle of the night. They will do this. They will do that.
They feel it more.
They just do things losers don't want to do. They'll pay a price losers just don't want to pay.
Yeah.
And losers say it's just not worth it.
What's really fascinating in the Killer Instinct program, there's a lesson called F Your Feelings, but I actually use the F word. F your feelings. I was talking to a professional athlete, and I asked him, how many days out of the year do you wake up and actually want to work out? How many of those days do you feel like working out? And he said, honestly, maybe 60% of the days, 50, 60%, I wake up, I'm excited, I'm motivated. And I said, what about the other 40%? He says, I don't feel like doing it. And I said, what do you say to yourself? He goes, who gives a F how I feel? I have to do it. It doesn't matter how I feel. I was talking to a friend the other day who's always complaining about all the work they have to do, and they end up not doing the work. And I tell them, I said, you care too much how you feel. It's I feel this, I feel that. When I talk to winners, they seldom use the phrase I feel. It's very rare. They're too busy doing. They're ignoring feelings that get in their way. Now, they're not repressing feelings. That's a different thing. But the little feelings that get in the way of action specifically that will lead you towards your goal or your vision, they ignore those feelings. They don't have time for those feelings. They say, F my feelings. Let's listen to one more clip from Dr. Phil where he talks about Emmitt Smith's pregame routine.
In sports, and I saw it when I talked to Emmett, he's been a friend of mine for a long time, and I was talking to him about his psychology as he goes into a football game, and he says he plays a movie in his mind of the entire game before he plays it. Because in a football game, you're going to have 11 or 12 possessions during the game. Just throughout the football game, you're going to get that ball 11 or 12 times. And he would say, and I'm going to carry that ball 3 or 4 times per possession. And he knows which plays he's going to run. He would run them through his head. He would see it. He would know who was going to be there to tackle him. He'd run everything through his head. And he's one of those guys that wants the ball when the clock's running out.
Yeah.
Throughout my entire career in peak performance, I have stressed continuously, if you're going to do one thing, and one thing only with mental training, it's visualize. Visualize, visualize, visualize. See yourself hitting game winners. Run through your offensive sets. Know the defensive sets. Make sure if you're doing something other than basketball, you can see yourself succeeding. Put yourself into the environment before you're actually there. Visualization is a form of time travel. It's a way to experience the future. Great athletes, every single one I study, when you dig just a little bit deeper, you find that they're visualization monsters. They have to visualize everything. They have to see it. It's a form of control. Killers like to control their environment. They want to know what's coming. And the best way to know what's coming is to start to prep the mind for what may happen. And you do that by not fantasizing. This isn't fantasizing. It's as if you're an actor and you're going through rehearsals. That's why we call it mental rehearsal. It's another term for visualization. And we add feelings to it. We add the tactile sensation. We add the auditory sensation. We add the visual sensation, of course, but we also add the emotional component, the type of confidence we're feeling when we're on the field. So all of that goes into, it's not fantasy. It's actually replaying the game in your mind, because you can do a lot of things in practice, but you can't play a game in practice. But in your mind, you can actually play the game. You can recreate in your mind the actual scenarios you're going to experience when the game begins. You can hear the crowd. You can hear the whistle of the referee. You can hear the sneakers squeak. You can feel the ball in your hand. It's really a blessing that we can visualize. It is a way, again, to control the future, and if you are not doing it, you are harming your game. You're harming your future. In the program, we have a lot of guided visualizations, which I have to use. I love guided visualizations. It keeps me on track. It keeps me focused. So if you get nothing else from mental training, start to visualize. And the other thing we do is we relax you before we visualize. We get you in a calm state. We alter your brain waves so you're more receptive to suggestions, and it's easier to produce the images you'd wish to produce. The great thing about the mind is you never have to make a mistake. You can be perfect in your mind. And one other thing I'll say, it's just something because I know I get a lot of questions about this. Do I have to do everything? Do I have to know every single thing I'm going to do in a game? No, the mind, you don't have to do that. The mind works on pattern recognition. So if you give your mind a general idea of what you want, crisp and clear, yes, but it can be general. Your mind, your subconscious mind can fill in the gaps. For instance, if you picture yourself shooting a jump shot off the dribble on the left wing, you don't have to cover every spot on the left wing. Just get used to coming with a left dribble and pulling up on the left wing. That's covering it. And then you might want to shoot a three-point shot from left hand off. So it's kind of like cover the 5 areas that they shoot in the NBA three-point contest. Corners, right wing, left wing, top of the key. Do layups from those angles, mid-range from that angle, from those angles, pardon me, and then three-pointers from those angles. And you've covered the whole floor. And you could do that very quickly. 10, 12 minutes a day of mental training. It's unbelievable. You're just harming yourself. You're just harming yourself if you're not doing mental training. You really are. It's such a negligent thing to do with all the information we have. You can practice and practice and practice. If you don't add the mental component, you're not going to be as consistent, as successful, as confident. You're not going to know what to do when you get in a slump. And it's not just because I sell these programs. I practice this every day of my life. And not for basketball, of course, I'm done playing, but for everything I do. And I can see the difference between myself and others. And it's because of that. The last thing I'll end on is Dr. Phil finishes by saying, in crunch time, Emmitt Smith wanted the ball. And that's part of being clutch. If you want to be clutch, you have to want the ball when it's crunch time. You have to want it. So many guys want to be clutch, they hide from the ball. You'd be amazed how fast your fear goes away with a simple change in thought from, I don't want the ball, I don't want to make a mistake, to say, hell yeah, give me the ball. I want it. Let's see what happens. You become curious about what will happen, not scared. That shift from fearful to curious, and then from curious to excited. You know, I'm excited now at the end of games. Give me the ball. Whenever there's pressure, in any situation, I want to do it. I want to step up. I'm built for this, okay? Anyways, I thought this Dr. Phil interview was fantastic. You should watch the whole thing. A lot of interesting ideas, articulate. His ideas are thought out. They aren't just something he started thinking about yesterday. It's clear he's given thought to a lot of these issues, and his talk show host has sadly diminished his stature, and he seems like a good therapist. So check out the interview. It's Joe Rogan. Dr. Phil, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and get the Killer Instinct program. The link is below. It's really good. It's my favorite thing I've ever done. Growing up, I was always interested in the mental game. After years of study, I developed the BasketballBrain program. My life is devoted to helping others achieve their greatness. I hope you'll like, subscribe, and if you take a chance with the BasketballBrain program, I promise you your game's going to reach levels that you never thought.